Happy New Year! Welcome to the first Rocker Dog podcast of 2023, the one and only show that talks to musicians about their canine companions. I'm your host Tim Dill, along with my faithful sidekick Charlie, and today we speak to Brendan B. Brown and Gabrielle Sterbenz of the band Wheatus, who will be celebrating the COVID-delayed 20th anniversary of their self-titled debut album this year, and these are their teenage dirtbag rocker dogs.
We're Wheatus, or at least 2/6 of Wheatus. One third of Wheatus. Some days we'd be a quarter, right?
Yeah.
And our rocker dogs are Cosmo, a brown schnauzer, a chocolate schnauzer rescue, and Buddy, also known on social media as Teenage Dirt Bud.
Yes.
His Instagram account is it's quite a thing.
I've since been a follower, and I have a number of questions that probably that came from that. How old are these dogs? We'll get into like kind of where how you got them, but how old is each one right now?
14. Cosmo's 14 and Buddy's 15.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're getting up there. And how long have they been kind of roommates?
Oh, when did we get Cosmo? 2019?
I think about 2 years ago. They've had Buddy's been putting up with Cosmo for 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah. They're very different. So when we use the term putting up with, we really mean it. Buddy is very, very different from Cosmo. He's very food motivated, extremely intelligent. He's conniving. He hatches complex lies and scenarios that he plays out on us. And Cosmo is incapable of complex thought, but is extremely affectionate, whereas Buddy is entirely transactional.
Okay, nice.
We've had Buddy since I think 2015. We got him when he was about 7, and Cosmo was 12 when we got him.
Yeah.
Okay, and how did you go about? So you essentially rescued older dogs.
Yes.
We do.
Yeah.
What was the context behind rescuing each one of them?
Well, when we met in 2011, Gabrielle had a blind Boston Terrier called Fanny. And I was not, at that time, a dog person. I had cats at the studio. And as you might know, cats kind of take care of themselves when you're away, as long as somebody feeds them. But dogs, more, you need somebody to live with. You can't just leave a dog at home with the doggy door. So I fell in love with Fanny when we started dating, and
she fell in love with you. She did not care about me anymore once Brendan was in the scene.
I don't know about that, but I did become a dog person as a result. And Fanny died while we were together. It was 2013. I think.
We were on the road actually when she passed, unfortunately.
Yeah, so that was rough. We went through all the emotions that you go through for trying the instinct to replace your animal, and it's kind of there gnawing at you. And then there's also, you have to have a bit of more of a conversation with yourself about that because it's not healthy. But then about a year later, we went looking for a rescue that we could give a permanent home to. And what was the name of the place?
Well, so there's an expo in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and they had a 3-day adoption event. I think it was through Best Friends.
Best Friends, yes.
Okay. We went on the last day. Actually, Brendan surprised me because I had an experience where I was like, oh, I don't think we should rescue another dog yet. And he's like, oh, come on, let's just go walk in.
Let's just look.
Yeah. We
You know where that leads.
Yeah.
If you have any kind of heart, it's like going into a rescue when you're actually open to bringing one home. It's like, that's a sure thing.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, like, I'm in a position where, I'm barely a new dog owner, and it's overwhelmed me emotionally. And I've always felt I was a dog person that never had a dog. So thus the podcast. But now that I'm in the world and my social feed is filled with rescues and dogs, I just ask myself, when I have the opportunity to go rescue a dog, like, how does that one dog find you? Because you want them all.
So interesting. So when we went to the expo in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, it seemed like hundreds of dogs and thousands of people. I don't know how to describe it, maybe just looking for a connection amongst these confused, frightened animals,
Right.
is pretty challenging in an environment like that. As New York City is already you're overstimulated, or at least the animals are, and it can be pretty intense. So I think if you're thinking about doing it, especially if you're in a highly populated city, you got to have patience and you got to give it a couple of runs. Be prepared to spend some time, and also in that time, maybe you're kind of asking yourself some questions about what it's going to mean for you to do this, because this is like a big responsibility, and there's a lot of people out there, as you know, pandemic style, who wind up with a pet they're not sure about, and that's the worst thing that can happen. So
Right.
so we in that spirit, we were really looking. I looked at every single dog in that place,
Yeah.
except
In his, because we actually walked out. Like we walked out without a dog, and then we saw 2 other Wheatus band members, and we're like, "Oh, let's go around one
That's
more
so
time
funny.
with them."
yeah, Matthew and Joey were on their way in when we were saying, "Okay, well, there's no one here for us. Let's leave." And they were on their way in, and they said, "Oh, did you find any good ones?" And I said, "Well, there's some that are blah 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 blah." And we just started talking, walked right back into the place. So it was this close to not happening for Buddy and us. And Gabrielle noticed a section that we had not really seen, which was surrounded by glass. I started calling it the nippy pen, because it looked like you couldn't stick your fingers through, because these dogs would maybe bite you, And there he was, curled up in the corner, all the way as far away as he could get from the only other dog that was in there, that was just barking its head off, running around in circles, barking its head off. And then Buddy was just over in the corner like, how did I wind up here?
He was very calm and like in the midst of chaos, and he was small and like about 7. He was like middle-aged, and I looked and I was like, you know what? He kind of checks the boxes that we thought would be good. I think one of the things with dogs, you have to be honest about the kind of lifestyle you live, and you have to choose a dog for whom that would be appropriate, so that you have a happy life together. And like, I could never have a dog that was like super energetic and needed a ton of exercise or a ton of discipline, because that's just not how I am. So he looked appropriate.
He looked the part,
Right.
first and
Well,
foremost.
Calm in the midst of chaos suits, I think, the rock and roll type of dog.
For sure.
And I forget how we found this out, whether or not it was in his paperwork or if it was just by deducing where he wound up in that nippy pen. But we started referring to him as like he got returned. He was like returned. We said as we came to know him, we realized why a family could, especially with kids, could make a mistake like this. He cannot be picked up. He prizes his autonomy, so he's not a lap dog.
He's curmudgeonly.
Yeah, he's a bit of a curmudgeonly little fellow. Very smart, very engaged, always paying attention, always knows where you are, always knows what's happening in the house. Is always very aware of the size of his extended pack, because we're in a band and we have people coming and going, and we're constantly hitting the road. And some days our circle of humans expands to upwards of 20 people, and sometimes it reduces down to 2 of us. So I think Buddy's the most conscious of that factor animal I've ever encountered. He is totally aware of. So when we were in this space with him, when we first discovered him in the nippy pen, I was skeptical. And when he came out amongst the throng and the din of like all these people walking back and forth, and so loud in there and so crowded, echoey space, he was on the ground kind of looking up at me, and I got this sense that he was saying, get me off this floor. Not necessarily pick me up, but he was looking at me, he was gauging with me and trying to say something, trying to convey. So without thinking, I picked him up onto my shoulder, and he was fine with it. We later came to find out that was the reason he was fine with it. Under normal circumstances, you can't do that with that dog. But it was the first thing that I did with him. And he licked my face as soon as he got onto my shoulder.
Right.
It was a ploy.
He played me. The first interaction we had, he played me. Right. So he's like, that's right, human. You did exactly what I wanted you to do. And don't ever do it again unless I tell you to. So but what the reaction of the people who the workers in the charity, they kind of like gathered around and went, oh, You picked up, and they had his name was listed as Hachi at the time, and they were aghast that I had picked him up and put him on my shoulder, and they were like, oh my God, he loves you. And I think that they were afraid to say, he bit everybody else who tried that.
Right.
You know,
Right.
So it was like it was about that kind of an interaction when we first met him.
The day we brought him home, Brendan's mom wanted to take a picture of us with him, and I went to pick him up, and he turned around and he launched his entire body at me. He was like, no, like growling, and I was like, oh
snarling,
my God.
growl like a rabid animal.
I was like, what did we bring home?
That's
and
so funny.
I had a trainer that I had worked with my old dog Fanny, and we'd had to do some work because like anybody who rescues a dog, you don't always know what you're going to bring home. But 8-9 years later, he's a wonderful dog and he's only gotten better. But you have sometimes you have some behavioral issues you might have to iron out in the beginning.
Yeah. It scared me.
To your point about, using your training experience from your previous dog, did you do all the training yourself? Or was there a time when you did, have a freelancer come in or, an appointment come in?
Yeah, I did one or two things with a professional, because I'm going to be honest, Buddy scared me a couple times. I was like,
yeah.
So we did work with a professional and we did resolve the issues and learn how we should, change our behavior to have a better relationship with him and develop trust with him over time. But there are things where like, you cannot do this with him and you just don't, and then you're fine.
Right. It's funny because he comes across as so affectionate on his social feed. Is it certain people can get affectionate with him?
You got to know the rules. You got to read. Okay. You got to read the manual before operating. Look, the same is true of people. We assume that it's not of dogs, and I think that that's us being, short-sighted, because obviously they're all individual little personalities. No two of them are the same. There are some predictable behaviors in the canine world, but there isn't really a predictable personality from one to another. So I feel like once I got to know that about him, I thought, fair enough. I wouldn't be cool with it if somebody who was 4 times my size reached down and picked me up off the ground had I not asked to be, it makes sense. It's like, put yourself in their paws, like they don't want to do that. Cosmo, on the other hand, loves to be picked up. You can scoop him up off the ground under any circumstances and he's happier for it.
He's a sweetie.
Yeah, he's kind of there he is right now. He knows we're talking about him. He's a bit of he's like a little cop, but like a mall cop. Nobody takes him seriously. He's kind of like, constantly snitching on his brother and, oh my God, look, he jumped on the couch. What are you going to do about it? That kind of stuff. And Buddy is like, be quiet, What was their dynamic when you did first put them together? Were they kind of had to standoffish or?
Yeah, Buddy's not super social. Like occasionally he meets a dog that he's like, oh, I like you. But like most dogs, he's just like, you leave me alone, I leave. What did I just?
Yeah.
He'll leave you alone.
Yeah, he's more into humans.
Yeah. So it's sometimes Buddy's very patient with Cosmo, but every now and then Buddy's like, okay, that's it. And like he'll have a little like outburst.
I've had it with you. Get lost.
Right.
Vibe. For the most part, oddly, between the two of them, Buddy is a submissive dog, but if only because he's trying to avoid his brother all the time. So it's like, and then they walk together like a pack.
That's true.
Side by side, and they're fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've had a scrap here and there, nothing too serious. Mostly just Buddy just telling him what for,
Yeah. But, it's funny because on his socials, it does seem like he does I have a list of pals. I don't know if they're pals, but like you said, he walks in pack. Well, I know a couple of posts are him walking with other dogs.
Yeah.
But it is funny to hear that he is more of this independent spirit.
Definitely.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Before I forget, I want to touch quickly on Fanny, because I've had a previous guest with a Boston Terrier who had one eye through an accident, and the guest also knew 4 other Boston Terriers that had lost an eye. So my question to you was this a full-sighted dog at one point and eventually went blind, or did it go blind through accidents, or did it go blind through disease?
So she, you may have heard this, but the dogs with short noses, typically have eye problems because they
Yeah.
tend to bulge. So Fanny used to have this little frisbee that she loved so much, and she would shake it so violently that she actually detached her own retinas
Oh
from the
my God.
trauma of the shaking. And I would not do this again, but I actually flew her to Chicago for retinal reattachment surgery. And she got her sight back for about a year and a half. I was in a massive amount of debt from the surgery, which was like,
my next question was going to be, did you do the
Yeah.
insurance?
they it did not cover enough to
Yeah.
make a difference.
Yeah.
And so she got her sight back for a year and a half, and then one eye ulcerated, and that one had to be removed. And then the other one, the cornea perforated, and that needed to be removed.
Good
So,
Lord.
yeah, it was a lot. And she lived so that all happened by the time she was 4. So she lived the remaining 9 years of her life blind with no eyes. But we had done a lot of training when she was a puppy. And so she knew a lot of commands, and she lived, like, she did so well. She
Right.
wasn't nasty. She never got grumpy. She did her things. We learned like little commands for if we came up to a curb on the street, I'd be like, step up, and she'd step up on the curb, and so it ended up working out okay. Like, she had a very wonderful life, and then she met Brendan and fell in love.
She was very trusting. That was the issue around her lack of sight, was that she was trusting. She put it
Right.
in your hands because she liked to walk. She wasn't going to give up on having a big, long, fast walk. She was a fast walker, which I was always like, man, this dog is fearless. Like, just, I know I can't see, but we're going, and you better work it out, kind of thing. Like, so I had never encountered that was a relationship that Gabrielle had developed with Fanny that I was a second party to, and eventually became like kind of enamored of, just this ability of this animal to trust so completely that way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's heartwarming that dogs in general, it's hard to break their spirit. I think if they're in a good environment, it's hard to break their spirit because, again, this show's dealt with dogs, with prosthetic legs and, blindness, and they're always, they adapt and they're happy and they live fulfilling lives. So that's good to hear.
Very happy.
She was very happy.
Yeah.
She was, I would say she was like ebullient. Like, she was always joyful and sort of excited about everything, meeting new people.
Oh my gosh,
noises,
so
whatever was happening, she was like really into it. And I think that what you're talking about is like, if they know that they're loved, they can check that box and live a life. It's like, it kind of feels like that with them. But that's when the only dogs I've seen that have broken spirits are actually unloved. So,
Well, let's get back to Buddy and Cosmo. I think more so Buddy. Is Buddy the touring dog? I mean, how did we first decide to take a dog out on tour?
Well, until this
and was that
year,
a good decision in hindsight?
It was. Buddy was the touring dog since when's the first time we took him out? Was it 2017? 2017 in America he came out. Fanny had come for a run or two.
Oh, that's right.
In the van.
Yes, that's true.
She had come along for a tour date or two on the East Coast, close to home. But the first run with Buddy was with his other sister, who we have not talked about yet.
Lord.
Greta was another adopted dog that we had from about, she's here with us from about 2016. I think we got her to late 2016.
Yeah.
Yes, and she died only 3 years later.
Yeah.
But she came along for a very harrowing first tour for Buddy on a tour bus in the States in 2017 in the wintertime.
She did not enjoy traveling.
That was tough. That was tough on her.
Yeah.
I think that she sensed more than anything just that not that the travel was necessarily something that she wasn't great with, but that was a very stressful tour.
Yeah.
We got caught in the bomb cyclone in Wyoming, where the bus was snowed in a garage in a gas station for about 3 or 4 days, I think it was.
Yeah.
We started to get a little stir crazy under those circumstances, and I think that she felt and internalized the stress. So that wasn't a good test case for a touring dog. But
Yeah.
Buddy, on the other hand,
Loved it.
he was fine. He thrived in that environment, new places, new people, new scents.
Always sits in the front of the bus next to the driver. Like
That's
it
great.
was the little co-pilot.
Yeah, wants to be
Loves
right
the
up
road.
front all the time. And that was
What were some of the challenges? Does anything come to mind? I mean, for me, my dog is so picky. He's a picky eater. It'd almost be like, we can't pull into a town that doesn't have an IGA that carries Alpo.
We packed like enough food, but the more stressed out she got, the less, like the more difficult it was to get her to eat. And like she did start to have digestive issues from the stress. And like it was not a great circumstance. And then we had to give her medicine. And I think she may have been abused in her past. So like it was very difficult to give her medicine sometimes, especially if she wouldn't eat. And then you're in this like struggle trying to get them to eat and eat the, take the medicine. And it just like she really was not cut out for the road.
Right.
Which is why we actually delayed taking Cosmo. After Greta passed, I was looking to fill a schnauzer size hole in our lives, and I came across Cosmo on the, I think it's Pet Finder that has all the all the different rescues. And so we resisted taking Cosmo, but then we ended up taking him.
He was very friendly, and he was easy to take home that way. At first I wasn't crazy about how he was treating Buddy. He was patrolling Buddy's behavior to a degree that I could see Buddy getting really short with. But worst combination ever, a dog that loves its autonomy and a mall cop dog who's constantly snitching on you. But it works out now. We treat them a little bit differently. I will occasionally give Buddy an extra walk per day without Cosmo, because Cosmo kind of prefers the backyard sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the road, like Gabrielle said, you're packing, 4 or 5 weeks worth of dog food and any kind of supplies you need.
Oh my God. I had 2 suitcases just for the dogs.
Yeah, it's
That's awesome.
They get their own tour. They should get their own tour road
Their own
cases.
bus.
And, yeah, kudos to Gob here, who is infinitely patient with putting together the things that we'll definitely need for them when we're out, and about. So, because you can't really stop. Your tour schedule is pretty strict. You're going to a different city every day.
Yeah.
We Gob last time for Cosmo, who has Addison's disease and requires monthly shots. You set up an appointment in Colorado for him.
Denver.
Yeah.
I had to set up, and it's out of state, so you have to send them paperwork in advance.
Right.
And so I got in an Uber and went to a vet we've never been to and was like, "Hi, can you give us our shot?" And that's the thing. When we love older dogs, and it's heartbreaking when someone lets go of a dog in their senior years, and so we've sort of made it. Our last 3 dogs have all been seniors, but you get to a point where they start to have medical issues and they're taking 3 different pills a day, and so we work it out. But it was kind of funny, like in Denver on a show day, taking Cosmo to go get his injection.
Yeah, Cosmo's nearly died twice since we had him.
Yeah.
And had to go to the emergency room. He had pneumonia one time. We didn't know he did. He's quick to develop bronchial issues if he gets sick. If he catches a little doggy cold, it goes straight to his chest. And within 24 hours, he had near fatal pneumonia.
Oh no!
So that was one of those I remember that night. It was about 2:00 in the morning, and he's sleeping next to me, and I could just tell his breathing was super wrong. It was just something was really wrong with the way he was breathing. And I listened to him for a second, and said to God, I'm taking him to the emergency room right now. And you were like, well, you're what? And I was like, yeah, he's something wrong. Something's going on here. And turned out it was indeed true. He had a very severe pneumonia infection in all of his lungs. And so they hit him with the full steroids and antibiotics, and he was in the oxygen chamber, and we almost lost him that night.
Oh my gosh, a poor dog.
I think it was 50-50, but he pulled through, and he still doesn't know what happened to him at all, and he's just goofy, and I get a kick out of how sort of clumsy he is, and
Oh my God.
how he just doesn't care. He'll trip down a whole flight of stairs to get to you, so he can lick your face. You know, he's like that kind of a dog.
He's super clumsy.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, we enjoy him, and we intend to until they call his number. So
Yeah. So back on the bus, you guys have everything you need. You've got a bathroom, you've got a refrigerator, so you really have no need to stop. Did you have to take bathroom breaks for the dog every, whatever, 6 hours?
Driver. Yeah. Got it. The bus driver has to be cool with it. That's another thing.
And those are stops you would generally not take if you didn't have a dog.
That's
right.
true.
Correct. There are times we try to coordinate them
For sure.
Yeah, with stops that we would normally make, but for the most part, it's you're pulling up to a Walmart parking lot at 3 a.m. because the dog just got out of the bunk, and you know that they're not going to wait. They're going to, it's just got to go.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into, I wind up the show with what I call the Zoomies, which are the last 5 quick questions. But before, I just wanted to touch upon this TikTok phenomena that you guys are enjoying with Teenage Dirtbag, which I feel like is more of a cat because it's got 9 lives. But what's funny to me about this phenomena is I saw it all through dogs. Like I said, my social feed is all, the algorithm is giving me dogs. So I was shocked to see when I went to your page and you guys have the, long cut of every celebrity from every walk of life. I mean, that was truly amazing.
So it's funny you should mention that. One of our sort of celebrity adjacent business partners has made a suggestion that we intend to follow through on, and it is a dog specific version of Teenage Dirtbag. This is something that's been on the shelf for a few weeks now since he made the recommendation. Somebody whose counsel we have trusted for over 20 years who said,
dogs sell.
People love Teenage Dirtbag, but they probably love dogs more. So
That is so funny.
So you got to put the two together, man. Think about it. This song writes itself. So that's something that's being worked on at the moment. So
that's great. I look forward to seeing that. It also leads me to another question about your merchandise. You do have merchandise with Buddy on it. I always ask, does it outsell the logo?
It does. The Buddy merch is very, very popular. More popular than the Teenage Dirtbag shirt, actually.
That's surprising.
Yeah. Is it though? Is it really?
He has such a cute face.
Maybe you got to combine the two probably just to get maximum effect.
Yeah.
Do you know though, Cosmo's bark features in 2 songs too?
Yeah. Ironically, Cosmo is the one who's made it onto more recordings because he's louder, first and foremost.
Is it People that he's on?
Yeah, he's on a song called People, and he's also on Joey's song, a song called Through. For that matter, he's in every one of our live shows because we sampled Cosmo, and he's in the keyboard rig.
That's awesome.
There's an actual keyboard that is 100% Cosmo notes.
Right.
So, they push their way into your creative life, just like they push their way into your food time and your sleep time and whatever else you normally do as a human being. They find ways to put themselves into it. So
you gotta love them.
Did you see Buddy's Teenage Dirtbag photos?
I did.
Okay.
I did. And that was a lot like what I've been seeing for the last couple of months is everyone's dogs. And then because now I think when I post this episode, that'll be one of I'll have to do my dog and to promote that week's episode.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, let's get into the Zoomies. Question 1 is, do you kiss your dogs on the mouth?
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
Okay, and Buddy allows it.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, he does.
Okay.
He returns it, actually.
Oh, good. Good to hear. And it's funny,
no
Buddy.
Lies. Full disclosure.
One of Buddy's posts was that he likes face kisses. So I was kind of thinking that was it. And also, the episode that's going to precede yours is with Doug Robb of Hoobastank, who is photographed kissing Buddy on the side of the stage.
Yeah.
They developed a friendship.
Yeah, they were friends. But Buddy has a real affection for Doug.
Yeah.
Excellent. Question 2 will lead this right into this one. Has Buddy or Cosmo licked anybody famous besides Doug Robb?
Yeah.
Corey Glover.
Corey Glover.
Of Living Color.
Yeah.
Corey Glover, who also provided, I think, rawhide treats.
Yes.
Yes, there was a bond there that I was actually frankly jealous of.
It was very
Any
funny.
other name dropping? I mean, I love the name dropping. Any other, musician, celebrity, dog interactions?
Art Alexakis
Yeah.
fell in love with Buddy. He could charm the pants off of anybody, really. I mean, he's so aloof but connected at the same time that
Plays hard to get.
he plays hard to get, and he knows what he's doing. So I bet you the most jaded of celebrity stars would eventually crumble under the mystique of Teenage Dirtbud. Certainly.
Yeah.
I love it. Moving on. Question 3 is, would these dogs, where would they fall in the rock and roll world? Would they be fans, critics, roadies, or groupies?
Buddy would be a critic.
Or an entertainment attorney. Right? Would he maybe be like behind the scenes, like, look, this deal is done. Trust me, I know.
Maybe.
I'm gonna rewrite this, and we'll get these people up to whatever 5 million or something. We'll push them. Yeah, I think Buddy would drive the hardest bargain, so I'd call him an entertainment attorney.
Okay, I like that.
Cosmo would be probably a groupie.
Cosmo would be a groupie, or maybe he'd be at merch.
Yeah.
I've known lighting guys who remind me of Cosmo a little bit. Or street team captain. Oh, street team. He would be
Oh my
a
gosh,
promo. Yeah.
Street team goes back to the 90s or the aughts. It's so
Yeah.
funny to hear, it's so funny to hear that phrase.
Yeah, fan club president. Yeah, that Cosmo would be on the fan side. Yeah.
All right. Good for Cosmo. Question 4 is, do you speak to your dogs in a dog voice?
Sometimes, but I mostly have just like the way I'm speaking now, conversations with
As a
Buddy.
peer.
Oh, you have a dog.
I do
voice.
have a dog.
You talk to your dogs as a peer.
Yeah, a lot.
Hilarious.
I actually, there are many times when I have the whole conversation myself, so I respond on their behalf.
Right.
Right. So a conversation with Buddy would be like, Buddy, what's going on today? And he'll say, I'm okay. Cosmo's really getting on my nerves. And I'll be like, yeah, Cosmo, can we do something about that? And Cosmo will go, hi, Daddy. And that's all he says in response.
Right.
What do you mean? And so,
I love it. I love it. Finally, is there a dog charity or organization that you'd like to call out and give a spotlight to?
yeah.
Does it only have to be one?
It does not.
Good. Brendan, you want to go first or shall I?
Best Friends is where we got Buddy.
Yes.
Susie's Senior Dogs is another
I
one.
love them.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
You should get online and chase them down. And I think regardless of whether or not you take our recommendations, most important thing is to find the best vet in your neighborhood and talk to that vet about what the best adoption schemes and agencies are, because vets will often see the dark side of adoption failure and all that stuff, and they'll be helpful preventing a mistake in the process. I would do that. If you're lucky enough to have a conscientious vet near you, that's probably a move.
Good advice. Interesting perspective for sure.
We got Cosmo from a New Jersey-based rescue called Wag On In. So I want to shout them out. And then I really, the ASPCA does a lot of good work, and so I would definitely put them on there. And there are 2 New York charities, Rescue Dogs Rock and New York Second Chance Rescue, who both take really difficult cases of like abused dogs or dogs who've been through some really bad stuff, and they do the real hard work,
Right.
and they bring a lot of dogs from very dark places to health and a loving home. And so I want to shout them out too.
Yeah, those places are great. I mean, again, I see all this stuff online. You see a lot of places that take in these dogs, raise the funds to get them, when they need, surgery or veterinary help. And, you got to tip your hat to them because they do an incredible job, and it's not an easy one.
No.
I think it's also important to note that, if you can find the best adoption agency and you can have a great vet in the neighborhood and you can make all the right decisions about, what kind of a dog, but if you're not sure that you're ready for a commitment like that, where endless patience is going to be required, and you're fully aware of the fact that you're not getting a fresh puppy who can learn how to socialize. You're getting a dog that was maybe mistreated, or has going to have trouble with this whole process, or is going to be uniquely attached to one person and not the other, and something like that. Like, if you're not ready for all the flaws in the process, then reassess, step back, reassess. And it's better to not adopt than to adopt incorrectly for yourself, because you're not ready for it. So, that would be the big thing. Our partnership has been stressed by our animals before. There's plenty of like, oh my God, it's 3:00 in the morning. Do we really need to get in the car right now? It's 1 degree outside. Like, are we doing this? Like, does this have to happen? I have so much work to do tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. You got to be ready for all that. It's like having a child, So, just be self-aware before you're aware of who your adoption pet should be.
On
for sure.
Same tip. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, on the same tip, it like, when you choose a dog, you shouldn't be choosing based on, oh, I like the way this dog looks. I think, like Brennan said, to be self-aware, be really honest with yourself about what is a comfortable life for you? How much do you want to be walking? How much training do you want to have to do? There's some breeds that you really need to be very on top of the discipline, that kind of stuff. Like, your chances of having a wonderful life with your dog go up exponentially if you're really honest with yourself about what kind of a life you want to live, and then choose the dog that fits in that the most easily. I would just say.
I think I'm seeing a lot of that messaging as we go into the holiday season, that this is a 15-year commitment gift. And also rescues and ASPCAs also are doing a much better job of not just giving to anybody, but finding the right, a lot of their messaging is finding the right home, finding the right forever home. And that means, matching the personalities and the needs and the expectations of everybody involved. So
absolutely. Wholeheartedly
agree.
Can I add one other thing?
Sure.
I just want to say that everybody, says puppy, puppy, puppy. And dogs that are like 3 up until 12, 13, 14, there's such an upside to getting an adult dog. You don't have to deal with the teething or the house. Like, you may have to reinforce some housebreaking, but like, if you get a dog that's like 3 or 7, or like we got a dog that's 12, there's some real benefits to it. And so I just feel like you should really open your mind to not just a cute little puppy, which is so much work. Like, we were able to bring Cosmo home and he settled right in, like, oh, okay, here we are at home. And so it's important to keep an open mind with the age of the dog, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you 100% on that. Well, while you're plugged in, do you have anything to promote for 2023?
So we are playing a couple of shows early next year. One of them is at a mall in New Jersey. That's on, I think, January 8th. And then shortly after that, we're going to Philadelphia
World Cafe Live.
Yeah, World Cafe Live on the 13th of January. And then the 14th of January is the big Mercury Lounge where we got signed in New York City release party for Starstruck, which is a compilation of Kinks covers, one of which we did, and featuring members of Sum 41 and Offspring and a whole bunch of other really cool bands coming out on Wicked Opossum Records. So that's January 14th. We're playing that record release party at Mercury
That'd be
Lounge
awesome
in New York City. Yeah, so that's
love the Mercury Lounge.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah,
nice intimate place.
Yeah, it's cool. We love it. And aside from that, we got some festivals next year. You can check wheatus.com/shows for the extended schedule for live dates. We're going to be adding more. And we're also going to be releasing the 20th anniversary edition of our first album with 20 songs on it, 10 that you know and 10 that no one's ever heard before. Quite a bit of that material is already out on streaming right now, but we're going to consolidate it into a release package for the 20th anniversary, which was supposed to be in 2020. But as we know, COVID had something to say about that, and supply chain issues and having to stagger rehearsals and recording led us to this point where it's probably going to be done early 2023. So that's the schedule for that. So be on the lookout for that.
Excellent. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on. I'm always excited to talk to dog lovers, and it was great to hear more about Cosmo and Buddy. Good luck with everything in 2023, and we'll keep an eye out for you when you come to my neck of the woods.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us. Appreciate
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right. That was two well-informed dog people. Thank you, Brendan B. Brown and Gabrielle Sterbenz of Wheatus, for sharing their passion and wisdom towards dogs. They shouted out a number of great dog organizations, so we'll help push the ones we haven't highlighted before, starting with Susie's Senior Dogs, who work to bring awareness to the plight of homeless senior dogs. You can find out more at susiesseniordogs.com. Wagon Inn is a foster-based rescue in New Jersey, placing dogs, cats, and small critters in loving homes. To see how you can help, go to wagonin.rescuegroups.org. Rescue Dogs Rock. Now that's a name we can get behind. Their goal is to raise awareness of the ever-growing plight of homeless animals in this country, both in shelters and those dumped on our streets. To adopt, foster, or volunteer, visit RescueDogsRockNYC.org. And last but not least is the New York Second Chance Rescue, who rescue and rehabilitate critically injured and neglected dogs and cats. Discover how you can get involved in helping out at nycsecondchancerescue.org. Thanks as always for tuning in. You can keep up with all things Rocker Dog Podcast by following us on Instagram at Rocker Dog Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and join us next week for an all-new episode featuring the singer of another strangely named band. All right, it's time to give my producer a scratch behind the ears. So long, everyone.